everyone, and welcome to Mpowered. We have for you today a brand new episode of this podcast series to give you a fresh perspective on leadership, growth, and excellence from some of the brilliant minds here at Mphasis. To speak with us today, we have Sachin Bhandari. Hi, Sachin. Great to have you here. Please tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Hey, hello, Rajshri. It's a pleasure to be in a conversation with you today. I lead the end user support services practice and delivery for Mphasis. That includes service desk, desk side support, and workplace engineering group. It has been a 16-year exciting journey with Mphasis, and I'm based out of Orlando, Florida.
Wow, wonderful to hear that, Sachin. Thank you. So, today's episode, as you may know, will revolve around one of the Mphasian initiatives, which is Disagree but Commit. But before we get into this any deeper, could you briefly tell our listeners what is it that this principle really means?
So, disagree but commit means open communication between you and your peer group or your team members. It is about creating a space where the team members feel comfortable sharing their ideas and suggestions. Of course, during the discussion, there'll be some ideas that are better than others, and some ideas being accepted that do not align with yours. But when a majority agrees to the way forward, you must commit to it and deliver per the plan as one team, even if your opinion is different.
Right. So, disagree but commit sounds like a pretty complex principle, which might involve situations where you need to disagree with your team members or maybe select only a handful of ideas for a given project or client. And I'm wondering, a situation like this might create some resentment among participants. So, how is that dealt with?
Yeah, a situation like this is quite common as everyone is passionate about their work or like things to be in a particular way. Also, it's very normal for people to believe that their way of doing things is the only way, or since they have done it before, they can do the same way again. So, if you do not accept their way of doing things, it may often upset them. And these disagreements can be actually on something as basic as an Excel format. So, when conflicts like these happen, we as an organization say that we must be flexible in our ways and accommodating of changes, especially if a few modifications here and there can meet the requirements. We should agree on the best action plan in the interest of the team and the client. And that's what we must remember. Now, as a leadership team, we try to keep an open mind and ensure that the team members know they should share their ideas and viewpoints, and that sometimes their idea will be accepted and sometimes they won't be. So once the collective decisions are made, they must agree and commit to a plan regardless of their personal views.
Right, got that. So it's very clear now what disagree but commit means and how everyone should put their best foot forward while ideating. But could you explain to us how this principle helps you deal with client expectations and how the principle has added value to projects?
Yeah, sure. Let me share an ongoing scenario. We are in discussion with one of our clients wherein our client feels that the way we are calculating and reporting a metric does not align with their goals. So we are facing few disagreements here because the client signed up for something in particular, and while we are delivering per the contract, still it is not helping them to meet their objectives. Now, per our principles as a service provider, we must be committed to delivering services that our end client requests for. Now, in this case, we had to realign the project operations to help our clients succeed. So a lot of back and forth between the client and internally on, how do we proceed. Now, during this process, we had to modify our thought processes and, how do we represent things. And the client noticed that, we are able to provide that kind of a benefit to them. Now, after all, all our efforts are to ensure that the client is successful. So here, what we did was we actually disagreed, but then committed, and the client noticed our efforts and flexibility. Now, they saw that, we were open to feedback, and making modifications. So at the end, it was a big win for us too, because now the client thinks, yes, we disagreed on certain things, but Mphasis took the feedback, they realigned themselves to help us achieve our business goals. So having had a positive experience like this, I'm sure they're going to sign up with us again next time. And that's how businesses and relationships grow.
That's really true, and that was very interesting to hear. And that brings me to the last question I have for you for today, Sachin, which is how would you suggest Mphasians demonstrate this particular principle on a daily basis, especially new Mphasians who are having trouble perhaps in just understanding what it means to disagree but commit?
Right, Rajri. I mean, that's very true. This can be a bit confusing for the new joiners. Now, this principle dictates that we must have an open and honest conversation, or conversations for that matter. This could be agreements or disagreements, but openly express ourselves with our ideas and suggestions that can help the organization to succeed. Now, in reality, constructive disagreements actually lead to better discussions and idea generations. Now, but it also does not mean that we must disagree for the sake of disagreeing. There should be absolute clarity of thoughts in the reason why you disagree with a particular point. And then as a team, we should carefully evaluate the pros and cons of all the options, and then we should decide the way forward. Now, there is another side to this principle as well. We welcome disagreements, because it helps you to commit. Now, if you are, let's say, in a situation you neither disagree or agree, you probably do not have a thought process or a viewpoint to solve the problem, or you're not part of the solution. Maybe because you are detached, you're disengaged. So that's a bigger problem for us. So as an example, let's say there are 20 people in the team, 5 of them do not engage in any discussions, or simply say that, hey, we're okay with what the other 15 people are saying. We are fine with it. We do not have any additional inputs. Now that can also imply that they are not interested and will continue to work as agreed upon, but they might do it half-heartedly. Now, similarly, if you disagree and commit, that shows your passion, that shows you're thinking about the problem, you're trying to get to a solution. Your viewpoint might be different. It may not be aligned with everybody who's there on the team, but usually contradictory views also helps people to think, yes, there is a different option also. And that option might be better. The client also at times appreciate the out of the box thinking, not the run mill solutions which we deliver. They say, yeah, this is something which we did not think about. So contradictory views are all absolutely welcome, but definitely, as a team, we should decide and say, hey, these are the options which have come across. 19 people agree to it, 1% does not, or let's say 12 people agree to it, 8 people do not. But then what makes sense for the client? And then, when everybody agrees to that solution, that okay, while we had our disagreement, while we had our viewpoint, it may not be in the best interest of the client, or maybe it is not applicable at this point in time. In future, it might be. It's a good point for us to do maybe in the near future. But when at that point in time, we should say, okay, at this point in time, we commit to this particular action item or the game plan, because that's how it's going to help the client or we as a team. And then all of us commit to that plan to ensure that, deliverables are met.
Right, right. That's given us a lot to think about, Sachin, and thank you for that. And this brings us to the end of this episode of the Empowered podcast. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us and providing us and our listeners with some very thought-provoking insights. Thank you, Sachin.
Hey, thank you for having me, Rajshri. Have a good day.